Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. Today guys, we're going to be diving into Polkadot and to see exactly what's been going on with the price action of DOT. Obviously yesterday was a very turbulent time in the space and we're going to dive down into this hourly chart for DOT to see what might be on the horizon next when it comes to this particular altcoin. As we get into it, if you find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, then do subscribe, tap the bell and select all notifications. In doing so, you'll be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Right, with this said, done and out of the way, let's dive into this technical analysis and pick up what's going on with Polkadot. Obviously, I think it's important that we do acknowledge that I'm not a financial advisor, and it is important that you do your own research. You can obviously replicate these charts with your own TradingView accounts, etc., and you'll be able to replicate what I'm talking about here in this TA. Now, we can obviously see that we were tracking pretty nicely up here just before Bitcoin kind of had its pullback, the manipulation with Bitcoin, 𝗖𝗢𝗠𝗪𝗓, and obviously the kind of idea around purchasing up $30 of Bitcoin, only to see what happened with XRP repeat itself with Bitcoin. Now, obviously, we kind of know what happened. We had a good, significant pullback. And this was an interesting point because we were actually just above this 618 area just up top here. And we were trying to break through this kind of resistance barrier. We were struggling quite a bit. And actually, as we were up here, we were just about in the overbought area. So the pullback was kind of going to happen, but it wasn't supposed to be as severe as this. Now, what we can see is some interesting moves. And we can just throw up here a price range to start with, right? So we can see that we actually lost, in the space of that time, for Polkadot, 36%. So it was pretty, evenly spread across the space. And Polkadot had a pullback that was quite significant. We actually bounced pretty well back up to this area here, which was actually then just showing a loss of 16%. On the way down, we did also find a good area of support. This is a support area that we previously established that came in at $31 before we actually went all the way down towards our low area of $22.65. Since there, we did bounce right back up into this area. And again, we just entered back into this area down here. And again, this is an area that we were previously kind of consolidating around in. So again, this is an area that we were finding interesting support levels on. So what does this actually mean? Well, we can grab hold of our Fibonacci retracement tool and just take it from that high to that low here. And this is actually indicating some interesting things to us. One is that from this high point that we had just before we kind of pulled back quite massively, and there was a bounce from our support down here at 31.21, basically getting rejected from our 786, and that's why we started to see a massive pullback to the downside. We then saw the bounce from the bottom here and pushed just past that 50% retracement area at $29.14, and before it started to come back down and find a support at about 23, or the 236 area, $25.70, and then we found that the this area just up here, the previous 786 was a resistance barrier, wicking just up towards the 50% area again, and before falling back down towards our 236. So the markets yesterday were really volatile. That no one really knew what was going on. There was bouncing kind of going on here, there, and everywhere. But the good news is that although we had started to see this, there are a couple of interesting trends that we need to pick out on with us trading sideways up here right now. We also have to acknowledge that there are some potential issues on the shorter time frames on the horizon here for Polkadot, and that is the fact that we are overbought. So although we're trading sideways here, being overbought is a little bit of a worry, considering that we've already dropped this significant value. So a pullback does look like it's going to be on the horizon here on this hourly chart. That being said, though, everything is still looking very bullish on the larger time frames. Like we take a look at the weekly, take a look at the daily, all of those are looking very, very good. But on the short term, it still looks like the markets just haven't quite decided on what's going to happen next. Even though there's pretty good explanations and good technicals being indicated across different platforms with what is going on with Polkadot. And one of these is, of course, the advice.io dashboard. Here we have the machine learning and artificial intelligence helping us to understand the underlying data and underlying value of cryptocurrencies. And this is completely unbiased. There's no human intervention, and it kind of gives you a pretty good, clear insight as to what's going on with that underlying data. For Polkadot, we are actually showing an A2 rating. This hasn't changed. So A2 is still right up there as a high quality altcoin right now. There are, of course, projects that have pulled back and have changed their overall ratings, but Polkadot just simply isn't one of them. And as a result of this, actually kind of means it's quite favorable as an investment option right now, specifically for the long term, at least according to the advice.io dashboard. This being said, we can take a look at the 𝗕𝗓 ratio, so liquidity hasn't really been affected, still an A2 rating. The fear and greed index, although the market seems quite fearful in certain areas, right now for Polkadot it definitely doesn't seem to be the case. Actually right up there an A2 rating, that's quite greedy for Polkadot. We can also see that the Sharpe ratio is still above that 50-day average, still looking pretty good, an A2 rating overall. So again, no real issues when risk to rewards associated with Polkadot. We take a look at the moving averages. Again, they're on A2 rating, so looking pretty good. The exception to the rule here in terms of all these A2 ratings is the profitability. This is actually up there at the best rating it can get, which is an A1 rating. So the profitability is the best that it can be. Overall, there's nothing really wrong fundamentally with the underlying data for Polkadot. So we know that Polkadot's actually looking like a pretty interesting asset to still be hold of rather than just panic selling. So when we jump back into the charts and we take a look at what's going on in the smaller time frames, yes, we say that there's going to potentially be a bit of a pullback with our hourly view. This being said, it doesn't have to be significant, and that underlying data is indicating that it's very unlikely that we're going to see a significant pullback. But that being said, it's really hard to say when you see events happen with Bitcoin in the way that they did. This was again unexpected and something that the artificial intelligence did not pick up on because it just simply did not know. We can take a look at things like Glassnode and take a look at the inflows of Bitcoin to exchanges, and again, they were incredibly low. They were not indicating that there was a mass sell-off on the horizon from any large investors or whales. So the kind of manipulation that was going on here would have been planned for quite a significant period of time, with small amounts kind of building up over time on exchanges of Bitcoin ready to dump on the market, or a coordinated effect or an effort, I should say, by many different kind of people in the space looking to basically capitalize on the back of the fantastic El Salvador news with Bitcoin becoming legal tender. And I don't think that's going to slow down any more. And I do think we're going to see more and more countries kind of allowing Bitcoin and potentially other assets to become legal tender as well. So the cat's out of the bag now, really. And as much as people don't want to see these things succeed, I do think that we are going to see them succeed very, very well. Now back to Polkadot here, we can quite clearly see that we've started to trade sideways nicely now across this support line of the 382, $27.60. And also just getting the close candle now. Hopefully by the end of the day we can get that confirmed close candle above the 786. Of course, I am talking about this potential pullback, and we hope to hold this area in a sideways trade if we can, whilst we lower our stochastic RSI. We take a look at the volumes, and again, they have dropped off, and this is pretty bad considering the position that we were in trying to push the price up. The volumes were kept down nice and low. That being said, though, volumes being quite low at the moment, could start to see a nice healthy correction pull back on our stochastic without doing too much damage to the price here for Polkadot. So the short term is a bit volatile in my opinion. We're likely to see a small pullback, but if we can hold it in a nice reasonable area, that would be good. The other thing that's quite noticeable is that we are setting higher lows. Okay, so even though we had this bounce, we didn't fall down any lower. Okay, so the rejection from this area is also quite a key thing. Now if I take this Fibonacci retracement tool off and actually draw another one on, and we'll take it from this high point here down to the bounce, and here we can see that we were rejected from the 702 area. This is a very common tactic, and you find that basically if you're going to find us selling off rapidly, we look for the bounce and then we look to find these areas here. So the 702 is an area that we were rejected from, and then we started to come back down. And on this journey here, a rejection from this area, if we were bearish, would be going to set a new lower low, which we haven't seen. So the fact that this has actually held up quite nicely during this wave is a very bullish tell indeed. So I like to think that this upward trend is likely to hold, and if we do see a pullback for this hourly chart to get that stochastic lower, I'm hoping that we'll actually bounce from this trend line and continue that growth to the upside over time, and hopefully get past this resistance of $31.21. It is quite frustrating to see a lot of the progress that we have currently been on take it out, but again, this is quite a positive note when we actually take a look at what's been going on with the daily. The correction has come in nicely and allowed to continue to allow us to grow longer term. So a short-term piece of pain right now with a 30% pullback can be frustrating for many in the space, but that being said, it does allow for a nice long-term view here for Polkadot. And again, we can take a look at a 36% move and we can push this and basically take a look at some other moves that are happening in the space during the third wave push to the upside. Here we can obviously see as an interesting move over a 2-day period where we lost 28%. Again, not bearish in any of the slightest, but a nice healthy correction. Again, you can see several of these over here as we're kind of peaking out at the top. We can also see over a several-day period a drop of 33%. Okay, and again, these are quite consistent. You see them time and time again, and they're very, very natural in the space. What you're looking for is to basically make sure that we don't set those lower lows, and that's what we're looking for in the next few days, making sure that we hold some key technical areas. The rejection from the 702 was a little bit worrying, but we have obviously gone above that area now. So again, if we can continue this growth, we should be doing okay. We take a look at where things were previously, and this is the tail that we're trying to avoid. We're looking for the stabilize above this key area and preventing this lower low from coming in like we saw during this fourth wave correction. And if we can avoid that here, we should just see a nice natural correction of 36% and then a nice steady push to the upside. So we are talking about some short-term pain for some long-term gain. Overall, if we are ever in doubt, we do zoom out and we pay attention to what is going on with our weekly chart, with what is looking ahead to some interesting price discovery for Polkadot. We are still talking about $177 as the price prediction of where we think this bull run is likely to end. This is about 520% from the current position, so some pretty lucrative gains still on the horizon as we close off this year and go into 2022. As usual, guys, if you did find this video useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you are new to the channel, then do subscribe, tap the bell, and select all notifications. In doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here. And with that said, done and out of the way, guys, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.